Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Many big updates going around today in the VCT. We've got serious changes to the gameplay itself with plenty of buffs and nerfs going on, but also some remarkable results in the playoffs over the last night. All of the teams have now been confirmed that are going to Masters Toyko. Cloud9 just miss out in a heartbreaking fashion for them. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Before we begin, wanted to say thanks to Underdog Fantasy for supporting today's content. If you guys want to get involved in the best daily fantasy app on the web, this is the place to be right now. They've got all sorts of higher and lowers on the Valorant and all sorts of other sports and esports going on today. For example, Redgar, will he get higher or lower than 36.5 kills across game 1, 2 and 3 against for esports? That's a decision you might want to make, but my favourite thing here are the rivalries, where you can choose between two players who is going to get more kills over the series. For example, here you can choose between either Safe having more kills in the series or Redgar plus 22 having more kills. There's an adjustment factor here where Redgar is expected to get significantly less kills, and therefore if he gets less than 22 less than Safe, then he would be on the winning side of this one. So yeah, you can make your entry if you are in the US and in any of these eligible territories. Play responsibly, and if you want to sign up, use code RAB, R-A-B, and they'll match any deposit you make up to $100. Let's get right on with the video here. I thought this is actually pretty remarkable. So, you know, we have the Zelsis like buff thing. This is Jake's mother, who's absolutely yoked here, and Jake actually says this picture is real, not Photoshop. My mother works out at 5 a.m. every day before work. She is natty, so I thought that was an awesome picture, right? But unfortunately, it wasn't enough for Cloud9, and we'll get into that over the coming minutes. Before we get to that point, though, there was some drama going on with regard to the rosters we are currently seeing around the world. These are the 16 teams that will go through to the Chinese qualifier to try and make it for the World Championship later in the year, which is pretty cool stuff. Of course, 2 teams will be going to Masters Tokyo already from that Chinese region. This, though, is another one. So remember Zeke was benched by the Heretics guys, basically because he was toxic, or I don't know, chemistry-wise, it wasn't working. They decided to make a change. Now, apparently, they will be allowed to sign a replacement player if said player is currently a free agent and has no current ties to any other teams. This, to me, is pretty interesting. I know there's been a lot of discussion around this because the theory is that, you know, the rosters are locked, right? You're not allowed to make a change. But it seems like, because there is a rule for emergency substitutes, there is a way to potentially get around the roster lock if you were to basically bench a player that you're just releasing a player and then say to Riot, well, we don't have an additional player, so we're going to need to sign someone, and they say, all right, sure, you can sign like a free agent who's not signed anywhere else. It does feel a little bit open for manipulation in the sense that, well, if you did really want to make a change and you were to just remove a player, as they have done, and give various reasons for why they did so, they could then sign a free agent, which kind of gets around the roster lock in some ways or another. Now, yes, you can't sign a player from another team or, you know, do anything like that, but if there's a particular free agent you wanted to target and you feel like could improve your roster, there probably is a way to make that happen, and Heretics apparently are doing so. So there's been some debate on whether this should be allowed or not, and whether, as a result of this, other teams could take up that mantle to try and make changes if they wanted to, because if Heretics can get away with it, other teams might be able to get away with it as well. But this whole roster lock thing has been kind of frustrating to many teams that are struggling, and they just can't do anything about it. But Heretics apparently are finding a way. Let's talk then changes to the game itself. These are big updates here to Pearl. On the surface, they look kind of small, each of these changes, but every one is intended to try and help the defenders a little bit more when they come to actually go over and take this bomb site here, because the way this often works at B is that the attacking team just runs down, they throw out their util, the walls come up, they plant the spike, and then they play the, you know, the post-plant situation. This wall here, for example, has been changed to look like this now, gives more options for the defenders to use these boxes to try and defend the long push. So, you know, they can use all the different angles around these boxes, the off angles and such, rather than just having like one angle around the corner here that is, you know, not particularly useful. There's also a couple of changes over here. So this area at the back of the site now has an additional like wall spot. So you've got another corner that you've got to clear as an attacker coming into this area, which is another good advantage potentially for the defenders of the site. And also you've got this, which has changed to look like this now, with this platform thing here seemingly getting slightly wider. So some interesting changes, nothing absolutely mega on paper, but all those changes combined could well lead to a slightly more defended-sided situation over this side of the map. And there's a few changes they're actually making here as well, in addition to this, to try and make the map more playable. Some would say, look, just kill it from the game, just remove it. The black boxes here are kind of like what things used to look like and now what things look like at the present time. So it seems pretty wise. This is the angle you get if you get up and crouch. So there's some additional options. You can't see over if you just stand on that bottom box, but I think it probably is a helpful change for the map. I'm still not a big fan of it, right? But we'll see how this goes because I think the meta is pretty stale and it was commonly played in the Americas and not so much, in fairness, in the other regions. Even TenZ, though, says, cool, good changes, but there's a $150 gun called a shorty. How about you deal with that instead? And then Riot said, you know what? Let's actually do exactly that later in the day. The shorty has officially been nerfed, as have the frenzy. This is a big nerf, though, for the shorty. This is what they're trying out in the public beta environment, which is almost always transferred over to the main game shortly enough. The price, I mentioned the price the other day. I thought maybe they keep the shorty as is. They increase the price. It's gone from $150 to $300. That's, you know, a doubling, obviously. Its reserve ammo is down to 6 from 10, which isn't a mega deal, but it's still pretty relevant. Damage at no fall off has been adjusted down. First step damage fall off has been adjusted down. So yeah, changes to its performance and to its price. So that's a big nerf for the shorty. It's probably still somewhat viable, but yeah, not as much as it was before. The frenzy as well, a small nerf to its minimum spread and a couple of other things also, even though its recall gets lowered, but this minimum spread increase is going to be pretty significant, I believe. Then though, we get into the chamber buff. So here we go again. Chamber could be back in business, baby. The trademark disabled range has been increased from 4,000 up to 5,000, and its arm kind of speed that it arms with has been reduced a little bit. The rendezvous can now be instantly equipped out of a teleport, which is a pretty big deal. And also the tour de force, the fire rate has now been slightly increased again. It got nerfed massively when his ult was nerfed, right, to become way slower than even a regular operator. Now it's getting a bit better again. So yeah, these are significant buffs. I don't know if they're crazy enough to mean that Chamber's officially back in business, but they're definitely significant enough to make him viable again, possibly, just because we haven't seen Chamber in ages. Yes, he dominated the meta for so long, and that wasn't great to watch, but you know, having some viable Chamber agent in the game would be pretty interesting. Viper as well, pretty interesting nerf to her. Reduced her regeneration per second to 5%, from 5% to 3.3%, and the time to regenerate to max fuel once empty has been increased from 20 up to 30. So is this enough to make it not viable? Probably not. But does this reduce the, you know, the potential potency of Viper? Probably somewhat. So intrigue your thoughts in the comments below. Like, how significant do you think they will be? Will we see another Viper nerf? I mean, this one, 20 to 30, is a pretty significant nerf. It's got to be said. So, yeah, Viper's still very good, but she's been nerfed a few times, and they seem like they want to at least reduce her potency in the meta, and maybe Chamber's going to be back, and the shorty is going to be gone. So some seriously big changes there. We might see some tweaks to this in the PvE over the next couple of weeks. But, I mean, yeah, also, is Ye back in business, right? Like, are they going to bring it back with Chamber officially being potentially back in the meta, right? So that's another interesting question. So intrigued to your thoughts and all that in the comment section below. Let's dive into what's happening in the playoffs. So as of recording, DRX are up 2-1 against T1 to make the finals against Paper X and determine who the champion is going to be of the Pacific region. There was also this big and surprising result yesterday, though. Foot Esports, they take down Na'Vi 2-0. Really impressive performance here. Mr. Phelan and Co, like he had his moments in this one, but I mean, yeah, 13-8, 13-7. Not even particularly close. Both these teams for now will be going through the group stages at the Masters event, as certainly will Na'Vi. But if Foot Esports win their next game, then they'll be starting in the actual playoff bracket itself, which Fnatic, you'd imagine, will be. In addition, but it's crazy to think that Na'Vi wouldn't have even made it through to Masters Tokyo if Fnatic didn't win lock-in, right? Because Fnatic won lock-in, they got 4 spots, therefore Na'Vi are in. But yeah, great performance from Foot Esports. Really cool to see these upsets coming through. That leaves Liquid, Foot Esports in the lower final. Fnatic, they 2-0'd Liquid, so they're confirmed to be all the way through there to the playoff bracket itself. The loser of, well, Na'Vi for sure, and also the loser of this series will start in the group stages come Masters Tokyo in a couple of weeks' time. A couple of other massive games as well, of course, in the Americas. So Demon 1 and Co on EG, they played up against Loud to try and get through to the finals. This was a competitive series for the first couple of maps here. Fracture went 13-9 to Loud, then it was 13-11 the other way for EG with a nice comeback in the end. Demon 1 with a phenomenal map here on the Jet as usual. 8-2 kind of first kill count, outdoing Aspas, which is impressive. At Binds, this wasn't particularly close. 13-3 in the ends, and at Loud, when it mattered, they walk away with it. So EG still not quite at the level they need to be. Loud are still the team to beat in the region, but you know, who knows who can beat them now.
Yeah, they're just keeping this back.
They're out of util.
NRG is saying,
yeah, it's gonna come down to the crossfire.
Says we're fine on this hold.
And are they fine on this hold for
Yeah,
NRG? The triple setup, the crossfire,
nice.
the
Wait, didn't clear at all.
Get Leaf.
Then from Leaf. But it's
Oh
still
no.
the
Nice.
Oh no, it's done. It's GG.
Wait, it's not over.
Wait!
He He's shooting at him with a shorty.
What is happening? Him, the
No,
rolling
there's no
thunder.
way.
Wait!
Finesse.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go, dude!
I can't believe it. I can't believe it, bro. What a way for NRG. What a turnaround. What a turnaround in the season.
Now we gotta get our revenge on EG.
Oh my god. It's tough. Oh my god, that's tough. It's tough.
The other series, of course, then was that Cloud9 versus NRG series. I mean, look, I talked about this series yesterday and I said that I think it'll be close, but NRG will have too much ice factor in the end, and that's how it goes, right? These experienced teams, it really does pay dividends, and as Jake says, you know, he fell to the pressure of the environment. It's, you know, it's good of him to admit this in a way, like how he was feeling, and, you know, you've got to go through moments like this as a player to grow from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. Devastate to fall short. Feel bad for Cloud9, really, because, yes, NRG, I think, deserved it, and they've got the final Masters spot now for the Americas, but Cloud9, after making all the progress they made over the last several weeks, and Jake and Rooney surpassing all those expectations, they just fall short in that final round, and well, it went to overtime right map 3, and they just fell short. So, you know, it's obviously devastating for Zelsis and co. I feel bad for those guys because they're so close again. They've had so many chances over the last couple of years to make it, even as Leaf says, like, you know, third time being one best of 3 away from an international LAN and losing time to prep for the LCQ. Now, I'm sure many fans of, like, Sentinels and 100 Thieves will think, damn, thank the Lord that NRG aren't in the LCQ, because if NRG were in the LCQ, then, you know, they should be odds-on favourites to win. Now I think it's wide open. Yes, Cloud9 have been very good, but they weren't quite good enough when it mattered here, and they go down in the ends. Zelsis with a good performance. Crashies was putting in the squad on his back so many times in this one. 13-10 to Cloud9 Pearl, 13-9, and then 14-12 on Haven after a crazy overtime. 6-6 both halves, and then just about NRG had enough. So, you know, crazy stuff. This is how it leaves it then. These are the 3 teams from the Americas that make it through. Loud in the grand finals, EG, NRG in the losers finals coming up today. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.